are those of the individual participants and are presented for the purpose of discussion only. No endorsements by Atlanta Fulton Public Library System or Fulton County government are intended, and none should be presumed. Hi, welcome to Writers in Focus. I'm your host, James Taylor, and today I'm delighted to have as my guest Claire Cook. It's summer. There must be a Claire Cook novel out. May I call you Claire?
Oh, of course. It's so nice to meet you, James.
I'd like to welcome you and your husband.
I know. Nice of him to take the ride, huh?
To the Atlanta Fulton Public Library and the Fulton County Government Center. By way of introduction, ladies and gentlemen, we're here to talk about Claire Cook's 9th novel, Wallflower in Bloom. You've written 9 novels in almost as many years. Your second novel, Must Love Dogs, which I saw last night, was adopted into a Hollywood feature starring Diane Lane, John Cusack, Dermot Mulroney, Christopher Plummer. It goes on, Stockard Channing. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, Elizabeth Perkins, yeah.
Your excerpts from your novels and interviews by yourself have appeared in Good Housekeeping, People, Red Book, and even Psychology Today. And I'm here to tell you that this aging librarian with the gray hair loved your book, even though it seems to be it is marketed for what's called women's literature or something like that. I'm going to ask you, who's the Wallflower in Bloom?
In the book? Or
Yeah. Oh, that's a loaded question.
I was going to say.
Loaded question.
Are you talking about me, James?
Who's Deirdre Griffin?
Deirdre Griffin has a great life. It's just not her own. She's the personal assistant to her famous brother, who's kind of a cross between a guru and a rock star.
Yeah.
And so Deirdre Griffin just, everything's about him. And it's not tough enough that it's her boss, but it's her brother, and mom and dad like him better, and everything revolves around him, and he's the family meal ticket. So I think, with all of the characters in my novels, they're stuck somewhere. I don't think any of us would change unless we were pretty miserable. I mean, it's a lot easier to just go with the status quo. So she just needs to, she needs something that's for her. And instead of doing it in the way that we might, just do something constructive with our lives, she instead drinks way too much of not even her own vodka, his vodka.
Well, the one night. Yeah, big
that one
deal.
night. We
Big
all
deal.
have a little, we all have these things that happen occasionally, and starts, just kind of cruising the internet for something to do, one eye closed, and sees that Dancing with the Stars is someone has had to pull out at the last minute, one of the celebrity dancers, and for the first time they're going to let their viewers pick the replacement. And she thinks, oh, that enormous list that he has, a gazillion Facebook followers and Twitter, followers and email list. It's basically, in a way, sort of her list, she's thinking, with many drinks. And so she writes this impassioned letter from her brother saying, vote my favorite sister onto Dancing with the Stars. And she wakes up the next morning and dance, Deirdre, dance.
And she says, what the hell, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, after she tries to get out of it in many ways. But yeah, it's kind of the thing that pushes her forward in the messiest way. And yet, how else do we get to the next chapter in our lives? It's not usually pretty.
This is going to be hard for me because I've been reading about you for the last 3 or 4 weeks. I've skimmed most of your novels.
I'm so impressed.
I saw the movie based upon your second book, Must Love Dogs. I don't know where sometimes your life ends and your characters begin. And just as a parenthetical insertion, I fell in love, way in love with Wallflower in Bloom when you mentioned devil dogs on page 74. That's, for those who don't know that, it's a New England treat.
I think we went to high school together in a former life,
But let's talk about you. Your husband is in the studio right now, so Jake, please forgive me.
Oh, you can flirt. It's not
Okay. But in your life, you've been an aerobics instructor. You've been a great wife. You've been a great mother. You've been a great daughter to 2 beautiful parents and 7 siblings. You're 45 years old. You're doing anything?
No. I was 45 years old a long time ago.
Graduated from Syracuse University. Basically, my feeling is you could have done anything you wanted, but you weren't. you're 45. What happened? Your daughter is swimming. In
Yeah,
a 5
for my
5 a.m.
whole
Go ahead.
my whole life I knew I wanted to be a writer. I
Okay.
mean, when you come from those big families, those 8-kid families, you just want a little corner that's all yours, you know. So one grabs, I'm going to be the doctor, I'm going to be the artist, I'm going to
Yeah,
be this.
yeah.
I had writer completely sewn up from the time I was 3. I was going for it.
The Fizzies commercial, right?
Yeah, that was bad.
But tell me, go ahead.
So, it was something I knew that
Yeah.
I wanted to do. I was the one in high school writing all the really, really bad poetry we thought was so profound. I was that girl.
Yeah.
And went off, majored in film and creative writing at Syracuse University, and I really just choked. I mean, I thought that because I'd studied with good people and I knew how to write, that I would graduate and, go into labor and give birth to a novel. And it didn't happen. I just completely choked, and I hid from it for decades. And I know this is not an uncommon thing, but when you're the one going through it, it's pretty painful.
Yeah.
So I overachieved in all these ridiculous fields that made no sense at all. I very quickly followed my kids to their little school, meant to stay for a year. I stayed for 16. Having a blast. I mean, I did fun things. I did open ocean rowing with middle schoolers to the Boston Harbor Islands. And
Wow.
yeah, fun.
I know what you're talking about,
Yeah,
too.
I know
Yeah,
you
yeah,
do. I mean,
yeah.
this is so cool that you've been there.
Yeah.
And but I was hiding from it. So I think for me it was the midlife wake-up call. A 45 was looking me in the eyes, and I was at the busiest time in my life. My daughter was swimming twice a day, the daughter who eventually went on to swim at Emory. And my son was doing, the karate, soccer. I was doing the
Sure.
suburban mom thing. And it just hit me one day that I might be one of those people who lives her whole life and never even tries, never goes for it. And I sat in my minivan one cold New England winter while she swam at 5:30 in the morning and wrote a draft of a novel. And,
On legal pads?
on legal pads,
something
yeah.
like
Well,
that?
this was
Yeah.
99. It was published
Yeah,
in 2000,
yeah.
so that sounds so like dinosaurish now. But at the time, we had the family computer, and so I'd run back to the house and type it onto my file on the family computer. And in 6 months, I had a draft of a novel. So either I really was a writer after all, or I was completely crazy, and this was my midlife.
I'm going to ask you one of
Yeah.
these television questions because
yeah.
we're on television.
Yeah.
But once you realized you had the talent, it's obvious to me and for the reading world that you sell tens of thousands of copies of books. You're very, very good.
Oh, thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
You could have written about anything. So your first novel was successful, second novel made into a movie. But basically the themes that I'm getting, and maybe the
Yeah,
audience
the
doesn't know
reinvention,
that, the
yeah.
reinvention, a woman in middle age, 45
Yeah.
is middle age?
I know, not
makes,
anymore.
That makes
It
me
was
old.
then.
No. But what prompted you to keep on exploring this theme?
I think by the time I came into it, if I had written my first book right out of college, I would have tried to wow you with just how literary I was.
Okay.
I would have been going for as much snob appeal as I could get. Honestly, I would have been trying to write the great American
You like
novel.
Tennyson, you like
Yeah,
the Brownings, you like Yeats?
I would have,
yeah.
I would have done that thing. When I came into it at 45, I just wanted to write the fun books. I wanted to write the books that I felt that there was enough pain and suffering in the world without me personally adding to it. I wanted to bring
That's a good
joy.
answer. Yeah.
I was not trying to please anyone other than my readers. And I also felt as a midlife woman, young midlife at the time,
Yeah.
who felt really disappeared in her own life, even though I won awards as a teacher. I wasn't like I was hiding, in a suburban house somewhere doing nothing. But I felt just really like, who was I? I had no idea who I was anymore without my kids, without my family. And this is kind of the universal experience for women of that age. And I just came into it thinking our lives need to be recognized, celebrated, and examined. And my readers so get what I'm writing. They thank me. They'll say, "Oh my God, you're writing my life."
You anticipate my question.
Oh, sorry.
No. That means we're tuned in. You didn't realize that at first, did you? That you were writing something that, for lack of a better expression, hit the nail on the head?
No, I
Yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
even thinking about it. I was in a daze. I was just, am I going to live my whole life and never write a book? I mean, I was 45. I've since heard, I had lost contact at the time with all my old writer friends. They were writing, I wasn't. I was embarrassed. I hadn't written even a thank you note for about 2 decades, so if I owe anyone, sorry. I just, like, everything about writing made me choke. And so I wasn't thinking. I was just, I guess, writing the book that was in my heart, and it turned out to be in many other people's hearts too, because so many of us feel it. And it's not that I exclude men when I write. I like guys.
There's some good guys in here.
Yeah, but I think my version
you can
of
have
it.
him though. I'm just well, what's his name? Is it Mitchell?
Mitchell, yeah, Mitchell is fun. The bad boyfriends are really fun to write.
Let's segue back into the book, because there are so many relationships in my life that are like Mitchell and Deirdre. They've been on and off lovers for years, a decade here, decade there. They might go out and have a couple of drinks and end up in
I know,
they might,
I know.
lovey-dovey.
It's just so much easier than moving on.
And then they break up, and they're both dissatisfied.
Yeah.
And can I tell you what? I'll tell the audience what happens. So, Deirdre's out in Hollywood. She's really accomplishing one of her life's goals, reinventing herself as a dancer, and she's going to find celebrity herself. And her boyfriend calls up and says, I got this girl pregnant, and I think I'm going to marry her, and your brother's going to marry us. And she goes,
Yeah. And
Did
he
I get
wants
that
to
right?
talk
Okay.
to her
Yeah,
about
yeah.
it. I mean, it's like, it's not enough you did this to me,
Yeah.
but now I'm the one you're going to turn to confide in.
Yeah.
And I think those kind of dysfunctional relationships can go on forever. And still there's that draw. And then you're back together for 5 minutes and you look at each other and say, oh, now I remember why I dumped
Yeah.
you. It all comes back. So
Back to the book. Of course, it's Wallflower in Bloom, but the crux of the plot involves your protagonist going to Hollywood, filling in for Dancing in the Stars, and in America, who doesn't know what that show's about? And we don't know how old she is. That's brilliant on your part.
I do that with my
You did that on
heroines.
purpose.
Yeah.
Until the very last page. How old is she? How old is she?
Yeah, and the reason I do that, I talk to a lot of book clubs,
Yeah.
and they're constantly fighting about how old my heroines are. They always want them to be their age. So I believe in a good novel leaves enough room to let the reader in, and a book is never fully complete until you have that reader response. So I try to just leave that open. And I have had readers tell me, oh, no, your heroines are absolutely in their early 30s. And others say, she is 67 if she's a day. So I just love that she could be, give or take.
But she eventually fit into those form-fitting costumes that you so
With a lot of help.
Which leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
You so eloquently described the situation, the backstage filming of a to me a Hollywood television production. It's almost got that same wherewithal. How did you learn about this?
Well, having
You
the
had to
Must
know.
Love Dogs experience,
Yeah.
certainly I had just the dream experience with that movie, so I was really let in. So I knew how to do I'd talked to a lot of producers, I'd been behind the scenes. I felt like I was in the Warner Brothers studio tour and I escaped the bus and I was in. So I did have that as background, and I think I've wanted to use that for a while. But the reality is I could not have written Wallflower in Bloom even 3 years ago. Every single person associated with the show, with few exceptions, is blogging or tweeting. The amount of info, the research, it was almost too much.
Yeah.
And the secret studios, the paparazzi has posted pictures everywhere. The costume people are blogging, the hair and makeup people, who to me, those are the ones who really tell you what it's like. So I had thought I would write the first draft and then I'd go out and spend some time out there. I had so much information that I really didn't need to do that. And having been a guest at shows,
Sure.
I know that you're not really seeing the parts that I wanted to see. And I wanted the book to remain an outsider book. Deirdre my books are not about celebrities. Deirdre, at no moment was she ever even on the verge of becoming one. It was very much an outsider's version of a celebrity experience.
yeah.
So to me, those lines were important. But I just could not believe how not easy, it was time consuming, but all the information I needed was there.
There are some interviews that you've given where you say the internet has not made me a better writer.
but
I certainly take advantage of the internet. Same thing as being a librarian.
Yes.
It's there.
Exactly.
It's there.
Exactly. And it really saves you time in some amazing ways that you don't have to, your fingers can do that walking instead of having to.
Yeah.
And you see more. And I think people reveal, as we all know, the overshare on the internet is pretty intense. So
reminds me of that Emily Dickinson line, there is no frigate like the internet, to take you into foreign countries and stuff like that.
It's so true.
I want to get back to the book one more time. You do not divulge your protagonist, your heroine's age, which makes her so much more interesting to me.
Thank you.
And Tag, her brother, who makes her into a wallflower. I mean, the family, the grateful, loving mother and father, love Tag. The Joni Baloney, I love that name. Joni Baloney and Colleen love Tag. We never know what Tag is famous for, except he's a New Age guru. And can I share this with you? We talked about this before the interview. You nailed him because you captured his charisma. You don't know what the charisma is because it's undefinable.
Right.
Did I get that right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I think as we look at our, the people who are famous, it doesn't add up. If you put those pieces together, how did the Kardashians, bad example, but you know what I mean? If you add those pieces up, it does not come up to celebrity, but somehow with Tag, there's a charisma. And we both, I know, have met people and you think, oh, how did this happen? And you meet them and there's this spark.
There's another great scene in the book where Deidre is now being taught how to dance on a celebrity level with Ilya. The Ukrainian dance professional. And we don't know how old he is, but it's so interesting because Tag flies in from Massachusetts, or Austin, I think, and within 15 minutes learns more about Ilya in a conversation than Deidre has in a week.
Charisma.
Like he's got kids.
Haven't you met those people who make you feel like, I must be cooler than I ever thought I was? He just has that thing where he makes you feel as if it's all about you. And then he goes on and turns his attention to the next person and he doesn't know your name.
Okay, so how did you learn about people like Tag?
Oh, gosh, I guess I've been around for a few.
Because he should be in your next book, really.
Yeah, and that's my biggest compliment when people want the characters to appear again. I've never done that, but you know that when they still feel alive to you, that's a good thing. I guess I just know I love people. I'm fascinated by people. I'm already trying to figure out where I can fit you into the next book. So I'm a people watcher.
Jake, I'll pay her to put me in the next book.
But so I just sort of feel that if, if you watch, you see people like that all the time. And you can see that on TV. You can see how a Tag works on TV. We all see the guru rock stars.
Oh, yeah. I'm looking at my notes right now because the word is unfamiliar to me, but it permeates your book. It's called chiasmus.
Yeah.
And chiasmus is a word reversal in two otherwise parallel phrases. You don't have to be a winner to start, but you have to start to be a winner. Yeah. What was that idea?
Well, I've started several of my other novels, the chiasmus, chiasma, or whatever they are. We could argue this. Are the chapter headings, but they're also sort of the method to Tag's mojo or whatever. Yeah. And they were really fun to do for about the first 15 chapters. By 30, I was like, whose idea was that? But I have done interesting chapter headings with other novels just to make them fun, and I think it becomes a structure within a structure and it kind of pulls you along. And I just wanted to see if it would work. I just tried it, and people have ended up liking them and sort of obsessively trying to create their own.
Oh yeah, one of my favorite periods in the novel, one of the chapters, this makes me laugh. Claire.
I love that.
No, I know. So I think Deidre's going to say something profound, or it's Tag who's going to say something profound, and I think she says this, and she says, "A bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, but a bush in the hand will feed the whole flock." And people look around and say, "Wow, that's profound, but what does it mean?" It doesn't mean anything, but it sounds good.
Yeah, and some of the ones are, you say, "Wow," but he could get an entire room just. And I think that's just who he is, and that power and that charisma, and why are some novelists more famous than others? What is that thing? Is the book better? I just these things. I don't pretend to have answers. I just think it's really interesting thing to put out there and get people talking about. And the book clubs that I've talked to so far all see Tag in a very different way. They see Mitchell in a different way. And it's very much them bringing their lives to it. Some of them think Tag is it, and others think, what a phony. You know, it's not up to me as a novelist
Yeah.
to tell people what to think. I just kind of put the story out there. And
You're one of the most generous novelists I've ever met. If you go to your website, and folks, just Google Claire Cook, and you're so famous in America that
Yeah,
boom.
right.
No, for the
Thanks.
first
I'm
first hit
lucky.
is your website. But you have reinvention clinics, you have publishing and writing clinics.
Yeah.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to put this in the form of a chiasmus.
Uh-oh.
And it goes something like this. When I taught a course in getting your book published,
Oh,
I
yeah.
talked about going and finding an agent. It's probably one of the hardest steps in publishing is to
Absolutely.
find an agent.
Absolutely.
And so the chiasmus goes like this. You can't find an agent without a published book. And without an agent, you can't publish your book. So how did you
That's
find?
a good one.
How did you find your agent? I mean, how do you?
Okay, I made every mistake in the book. I
love your honesty.
It's true. I did everything wrong.
Okay.
And I like to share that because I think we start to get into that perfectionist mode where we think if we make a mistake, we won't have a career.
Yeah.
And I choked myself for 2 decades with that
Yeah.
one. So I sold my first book unpublished. Absolutely dumbest thing I've ever done, but it still got me to where I had to go. When I finished a draft of my novel, my first novel, I wrote to exactly 2 agents who were so famous that I had heard of them. I mean, they were the only 2 I had heard of. I didn't hear from one. The other wrote back right away, and she said, "Dear Claire, if your novel is half as funny as your query letter, you will definitely find someone.
Wow.
However, it won't be me." So that was
That's
it.
good. That's good.
That was it.
Yeah.
So I just thought, 2 agents? That's plenty. They don't want me. I don't need them. I had no idea that people, write letters to hundreds and hundreds of agents. And you're completely right. It is much harder to find an agent than to find a publisher because, they're just...
The publisher won't talk to you unless you have an agent.
Yeah,
right?
and they can't because they have so many submissions. So anyway, I then started reaching out to small houses who had published authors I'd heard of. And so I found a company called Bridgeworks who had launched Tom Parada, not too shabby, and another Massachusetts guy, and also Lorna Landvik, and so I wrote to them, and they're the ones who ended up buying it. So it was just first time out. But I absolutely spent more on gas to get to the couple of stores that would let me do a reading than I made on that first book. Not that you ever do it for the money, but it's nice to make a living. But because that first book was well reviewed, agents started approaching me. So I think anything that gets you out there. And so I have been with my literary agent, Lisa Bankoff at ICM, who represents Ann Patchett and wonderful people like that. Ever since. So I've been with her, and we're married. That's it.
Okay, I have to ask you one of the secrets about writing. Okay, I think I know the answer, but I'm not sure. I've interviewed hundreds of authors over the years, and there seems to be 2 competing camps. One author will say writing is a solitary exercise. I'm pouring my soul out, my blood out. Red Barber once said, writing is easy. You just cut your wrist and let the blood fall on the page. And yet you seem to enjoy what you're doing. You make people happy. You address important themes with a sense of humor.
Thanks for seeing that.
And yet you are so responsive to your fans. Am I off on that?
No, I
Okay,
think
okay.
I'm both,
Both can coexist, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
I think they can. And honestly, part of it is I'm old enough to know that nobody wants to hear me whine. They have plenty to whine about
Yeah,
themselves. So I don't in any way, I wish, having just completed a draft of my 10th novel, I
Unbelievable.
wish it would get easier. I still have no idea how to write a novel. It's my inner reader that saves me every time. It's hard. If it were easy, we'd all have books out there. So that part is really hard. But the reader response, to me, is the thing that keeps me going. I mean, Wallflower in Bloom has been out for just
June,
exactly
June.
a month.
Yeah.
And already I'm getting so much email saying, when's the next one? When's the next one? And I'm like, could I have a day off, please? But that's the thing that keeps you going. I mean, it's so exciting to have someone want your next book. But the other thing that has happened is recently, as being able to write a book researching on the internet, is that my readers have started to inform my next book. I will ask questions on, say, Facebook, and I'll say, what should my next book be about? And the answers are just fascinating. And it's not that they're going to dictate my next book, but they might give me that one little thread that really adds something.
But it can be dangerous, Claire. Years ago, I interviewed Sue Grafton, after for this.
Yeah.
And she's great.
I bet.
But she said one time she had her main character eat Skippy peanut butter, and she got 1,000 letters saying, no, it's Jiffy.
Yeah, but that's when you say write your own book. You know, I mean, and I have said that. I've said, that sounds more like
Write
the
your
book
own
you're
book.
going to write. You know, because I think we all, there are brilliant ideas, Skippy peanut butter or otherwise, for my next book. But if I can't write them, they just might not be something that really speaks to me or that I feel that I could do. I mean, I think I've learned to play to my strengths. I know, my books are character driven. I think my dialogue's pretty sharp. I know there's got to be a plot in there somewhere, but that's not where my books are going to start or end. So I think it's playing to your own strengths, but the listening to readers, like for instance, from one of my novels, I asked my Facebook readers, what's in your junk drawer? I got like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of the most amazingly fascinating answers, like a troll head pen from, or a piece of the Iowa from a wooden puzzle. My youngest child is 35, and I keep thinking I'm going to find the rest of the puzzle.
Wow.
I mean, those to me are gold.
We're going to stop this interview for the time being. Continue with your next book next year, same time, same place.
Great.
Ladies
so
and
great
gentlemen,
to meet
ladies
you,
and gentlemen,
James.
I've been talking to Claire Cook. Her 9th novel, Wallflower in Bloom, is now available at your local library and bookstore.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Oh, it was so great to talk to you.
That's it.
Thanks.
That just flew.
Yeah, I know.
Comments and opinions expressed on Writers in Focus are those of the individual participants and are presented for the purpose of discussion only. No endorsements by Atlanta Fulton Public Library System or Fulton County government are intended, and none should be presumed.